So, first of all, thank you so much for having us, and we're just going to go ahead and start talking about what we did here. First of all, it all started with a hashtag, believe it or not. At that point in time, we had been completely oblivious of each other, Amira, Ahmed, Azza, and myself. And what happened throughout the following couple of weeks just changed our lives forever, and it brought us together in ways that we never thought were possible.
So right before the November events in Mohammed Mahmoud, as we all know, protests were attacked vigorously by security and armed forces. Yara at that time was actually getting engaged. Azza was working on her pre-doctorate in London. Ahmed was looking for a job after he'd moved to Dubai after graduation, and I was recovering from surgery. Having known Ahmed personally, I knew he was really devastated by what was happening in Tahrir Square, and he really wanted to help in any way possible.
And at that point, when the clashes started happening, I just left all preparations of my engagement to my mother. I was as surprised as the rest of the guests when it was happening, believe it or not. And 90% of the time, I just spent on Twitter trying to translate Arabic tweets back to English, hoping that that would spread the word about how atrocious the crime was against protesters and how people were dying on a daily basis. One day, right after I got engaged, I found Ahmed's tweet on my timeline and saw that he wants volunteers. He needs someone to help him out with this thing that he just started, Tahrir Supplies, and that all he needs to do is just do something completely humanitarian with all political views aside, because assistance in that kind of situation should transcend politics. And all he needed was just for me to contact him, and that's what happened.
Yeah, so for Ahmed, it started when he logged in on his Twitter account and he saw the hashtag Tahrir Needs. It was really disorganized. No one knew what to do, where to go. People were asking for things, and other people were willing to deliver things, but there was no platform to connect them. So he decided to step in and take action or take responsibility. So he started the account with the first thing, the first name that popped into his head, and it was Tahrir Supplies. By the time Yara contacted Ahmed, Azza was already in touch, and I became an official team member as well. And by then, things started falling into place. We would have never thought it would go this far. All we'd hoped for is to make things better and help people in Tahrir and prevent the confusion. That was our main goal. We actually didn't have any training of any sort, so we were not prepared for what happened next. We had an idea, and the idea was really strong, but our background was not. So there were lists of things needed in Tahrir Square, and they changed within an hour every single day. And we suddenly found ourselves gaining, like Ahmed mentioned, 11,000 followers overnight, and people were looking for help, and they were turning to us for that. It was really, really hard because we barely knew what we were doing. It was not organized. We had no clue how to be very efficient. So work was a constant process of development, and we started by retweeting and translating people who we were sure were in the field hospitals at that time. And at that time, we were also trying to get contact details for those people, for organizers in field hospitals, for doctors, for anything we can. Within 2 days, we started contacting people who tweeted back saying they could deliver supplies, and we tried to give directions to field hospitals based purely on our own knowledge of Tahrir Square. And within a few days, I remember having lists of doctors, volunteers, humanitarians, and most importantly, field hospitals and their needs.
By now, you can probably tell that we had no preparations whatsoever of it, and it was really, really messy. It was all about trial and error, and the only thing that made it a little bit easier is the urgency of the situation. You're put in a situation where if you do not act quickly, people will die, or in our case, more people will die. What happened is we started facing one problem after the other, and we were still new with this. I'm not going to list all the problems to you because that will not be enough time. But we'll start out with the recycling tweets. Basically, someone tweets something at 4 a.m. and another person will see it the next morning and be like, oh, this is so important, I'm going to retweet it. Please think before you retweet and just check the timestamps. Because what happens is people will be sending medical supplies that are no longer needed, and therefore we're just wasting our volunteers' efforts. Another thing was Twitter jail. And I'm sure if some of you guys are tweeps, then you are aware of this. You are not supposed to send out a certain amount of tweets during any given hour. And of course, we exceeded that amount many times on a daily basis. Adding to that the fact that everything was disorganized, we have from 5 to 10 different field hospitals at any given time. And for each hospital, they had at least 3 doctors having to get their feedback about what the hospitals needed, everything being sent to one account. It was just extremely messy. The things that actually started solving that, one thing after the other, was it started with Google spreadsheets. We can all have access to them, and they made our lives a lot easier. As well as timestamps. Since the timestamp at the very top of the tweet sometimes is ignored, we just put timestamps within the tweet so that people would know that at 1 a.m. this is what they needed, at 2 a.m. it became different. And Andy Carvin, who is amazing, by the way, he noticed that we were tweeting from our personal accounts every now and then, like complaining about how we have to do it from personal accounts. And he contacted Twitter and informed them about what's been happening with us. And thankfully, they removed the limit, at least for the time being, and we could tweet as much as we want. At that point, we just need to mention that your connections will help you. Whatever connections that you make here or anywhere else will help you, because it helped us with Tahrir supplies as well, or as much as spiritual and words of encouragement has helped us from other tweets. As well as those problems, there was one minor issue which is being attacked on Twitter. The internet being a place for everyone, including what we would like to call the trolls. We had people cyberbullying us, as anyone in our situation would. We were told that we're traitors. And when you're told that you're a traitor to your country, when you're actually trying to help, it's really bad. Of course, we were told that we're conspiring against the country, and we were asked quite a few times who was paying us, which is hilarious because we didn't do anything that had anything to do with money, not even accept donations. So to those people, whoever you are, nobody.
Yeah, so we're not going to lie and tell you that we tackled all the problems from the beginning and everything went so well and we were so organized. No, it wasn't like that, actually. Things worked out one at a time, and we messed up quite a bit before we got there. I'm going to mention again the Google spreadsheets. We had to turn to them when things got really, really complicated. They're fast and they're efficient, and they helped us keep everything so organized, especially that we were working shifts, so we didn't have a chance to update each other at the time when we were exchanging the shifts.
Which Amira and I personally used to leave each other words of encouragement that we thought were cute. Azza and Ahmed didn't. They were very, very angry about that.
Yeah, they were. So we know this is supposed to give you an idea or an image of how this came by, but there were no technicalities in it, not lots of it anyway. But this is actually how it happened, the exact thing.
And we would also, at the very end, want to tell you that there are many ways for you to do that. I know that there are a lot of people here who are interested in doing something similar, and we're just telling you the way that it worked out for us. I'm sure that if anything else works out, that would be great. If our mistakes will teach you something in the future about how to do that, it would be wonderful. And if you will need any help with that, please just contact us and we will be more than happy to help. We also like you to know that it's okay to panic, it's okay to overwork yourself, it's okay to pull shifts and know that you are not really supposed to, like, for example, drive at least, and still work. And there are things that you're going to have to come to terms with, things that are much worse than that, which is that in a situation like the one that was happening in Tahrir at the time, there will be casualties and you will lose people, and it will be terrible because it'll be on your watch and you'll kind of feel responsible. That brings us to a part of the presentation that we were so reluctant on talking about, but we think it's only fair to mention, especially if someone is going to be doing this. We first heard about Muhammad Mustafa in December. It was around midnight. And I was told about him by a friend of mine who worked with me, and she gave me his name and told me that he'd been shot in the heart and needed a plasma shot really quickly because he was losing blood. By the next day, we were already on contact with his parents, with his uncle, and with his brother. And there were literally hundreds of people who were looking for that one plasma shot for Muhammad Mustafa. That happened throughout like the rest of the day, and by the afternoon, Amira had texted his uncle asking him for more time, and he sent her that text. And it hit us that we all knew that we were losing people, but this person just made us realize the amount of people that you are going to lose on a daily basis if you are going to be doing something like that. And Muhammad Mustafa was a kid who just didn't just die because he was shot by military forces. He died because of the lack of medical care and because we, as Tahrir Supplies, could not deliver. So, sorry about that.
Yeah, so this part won't get easier. You feel like you failed a person or a patient or a whole cause at times. But that's not it, because you have to keep in mind that no matter how many times you fail, you've still stepped up and you've taken responsibility of something that no one would have done probably if we would have just been retweeting and not doing anything. So I'm sorry, this last part got to me because it was really personal. I remember getting that text. I was really devastated when I read it. It was during school days and I wasn't ready for it, and I remember getting that plasma shot like minutes after I got that text.
Yeah.
So it was a bit devastating. But I guess this is why working on Tahrir Supplies was really rewarding. There were failures, but it's definitely less than what would have happened if Tahrir Supplies hadn't existed.
And something like that, when you work with a lot of people who are willing to offer everything they can to help others, when this is a story that happened. A guy walked in, and this old lady walked in and was like, "This is all the money that I have. What can I buy with this for the people over there?" So it just restores faith in like Egyptians and in humanity as a whole, and in that one lady who got the plasma shot, even if Muhammad Mustafa had died before it. So we would love it if we saw this happening again. And again, if anyone needs any help with it, we'd be more than happy to offer any insight.
Yeah, so I'd like to end with this quote because I think it really relates to what you guys are doing here today. It says, I read it backwards because it makes more sense to me like that. And it says, small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. And I think ideas are what you're here for. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.